Whenever we've tested flat-screen TVs on the Gadget show before, we've done dirty great big ones like this. The sort you'd stick in your living room, or if you're rich, your home cinema. But smaller flat screens have a great deal to offer elsewhere in the house. They're ideal for your bedroom, your kitchen, even your bathroom, because they're a lot smaller than a conventional old boxy TV. But what's the best one to get? Well, surprisingly, the choice is rather limited if you want something that belongs in the 21st century. These are the best three I could find, and none of them does everything I want it to. This 20-inch Toshiba does have a built-in Freeview tuner, but it's quite expensive and it isn't HD ready. This 20-incher from Evesham is HD ready and slightly cheaper, but it doesn't have built-in Freeview. And finally, the most compact and cheapest of our three is this 17-inch Humax. This does have built-in Freeview, but again, it isn't HD ready. I reckon these three really are the best of the crop, but which one should you choose? To find out, I took all of them to an empty warehouse for some serious testing. Our first test is for picture quality, obviously the most important thing in a telly. And small LCD screens haven't been that great in my experience. They can produce some luridly unrealistic colours, especially on flesh tones. And here's Steph, one of the better-looking members of the Gadget Show team, showing quite a lot of flesh tones. All very nice, but there is actually a credible scientific reason for her taking her clothes off. Honestly. I've set up a camera in front of Steph which is feeding her image directly into our small TVs. What I want to find out is which one gives the closest approximation of her real skin tones. First, I tried the Toshiba. I'm really impressed with this. Steph's skin looked quite natural on the screen. It's perhaps a slight bit of extra cool reddishness, but no, I'm very impressed. Also, the blacks are pretty black in the background as well. That's impressive. I could live with this as a telly. Unfortunately, the other two TVs weren't nearly as impressive. The Humax's colours were a bit flat, and the backlight was uneven. But the Evesham was the worst. Its colours were subdued and did Steph the least justice. Bizarrely, its screen isn't the right proportions for normal widescreen pictures. These are 16:9, whereas the Evesham is 16:10. So everything you watch looks vertically stretched. I don't think I could live with that distortion on everything I watched. So, it's definitely the Toshiba that's on top after the first round. On to test 2. Another problem with LCD TVs is that they can be very sensitive to the angle you're viewing them from. In bad cases, if you're not actually looking at the screen head-on, the picture can all but disappear, which would clearly be hopeless if you're trying to watch telly while pottering round the kitchen. To cover all angles, we've got this crane. Steph has now put some clothes on, and she's going to manoeuvre me around on the hoist so I can view all three screens from every possible angle. Steph, can we go right a bit, please? Right round. Interestingly, all LCD TVs have an ideal viewing angle. Move away from that position, vertically or horizontally. Up, please, Steph. And the picture you see begins to deteriorate. Modern LCDs are getting better all the time. But which of our three is the best? Well, wherever I went on the hoist, the picture on the Evesham hardly seemed to deteriorate at all. But of course, it's not that great to start with, so it's not a huge advantage. The Toshiba was next best. It lost a bit of contrast as you moved away from the centre, but the picture never became impossible to watch. It was the Humax that was worst affected by the angle I viewed it from. The brightness changes and the colour balance seems to shift as well as you move up and around. But it's not going to be a problem unless you look at the TV from underneath. Then the brightness falls off really quite sharply. So, all things considered, after 2 rounds, it's still the Toshiba that's out in front. Time then for our final test. Our final test is for sound quality and volume, because small TVs face all manner of oral competition around the home. Which is why Steph's going to be running around doing her noisy worst with her vacuum cleaner, while I try and listen to a programme. Now, having Steph make so much noise so close to me may seem a bit extreme, but think about it. If you're watching one of these TVs in a kitchen with the dishwasher on, maybe you're using a food processor and you've got the extractor fan going full blast, there's a lot of noise for it to punch through. First, I tried listening to the Humax. It was rather tinny, and when I turned up the volume to try and hear over Steph's cleaning, the sound just became more and more distorted.
Sounds like a joke, but in congested central London, you barely do more than 20. However, the slowness is an issue.
The Evesham wasn't any better. Just listen to this.
This is important consumer testing. Rose was unconvinced.
This is horribly thin and scratchy. Cuts through the racket, but I think I'd rather listen to the vacuum cleaner. Yet again, it was the increasingly impressive Toshiba that came out on top. Well, it doesn't sound brilliant, but when I turn it up, I can hear what everyone's saying, and I can hear some of the background music. So overall, it's not bad.
Well, John, that seemed fairly categoric to me. Am I right in thinking that you quite like the Toshiba?
It was definitely the best. In fact, it's got one of the best pictures I've seen on an LCD TV of any size.
That's praise indeed. OK, so what about the G rating? Let's start with the Evesham first.
I'm afraid it has to be 1G. The picture wasn't very good anyway. It's in the wrong proportions. And crucially, it says it's HD ready, but it doesn't have an HDMI socket, which means in the future you won't be able to fit things like Sky Plus boxes, Blu-rays, HD DVDs into it. So it's not really HD ready at all.
So, quite misleading. What about the Humax?
2G. Nice and compact, but the picture and sound left me feeling as though I was missing out on something.
And finally, the Toshiba, John.
4Gs. The picture really is excellent.
So, the Toshiba 20-inch is our small widescreen telly of choice.